Hello, welcome back to The Final Gaze. My name is Harrison, and I'm joined here today by my friend Jesus. Jesus, please introduce yourself.
What's going on, guys? My name's Jesus. Thank you very much for that introduction, Harrison. I live in Los Angeles, California, and I am a video producer. I currently work for Playboy as an editor, and I do also have my own digital agency named Dom Digital Media. And I create media and content for influencers and all sorts of people, businesses. And that's what I do. I do photography, video, editing, aerial cinematography, anything you could think of. And that is my passion. And that is what I do.
Excellent. So how do we know each other?
Oh, well, we know each other from college, and it's been over 10 years since me and Harrison have been friends. And that is a long time ago, but it does not seem like it's been that long.
I know.
But yeah, we met in college back in 2009.
2009.
That's when we started our college associate's degree. And we had, I think, we were in the same class to begin with, and we just kind of like kicked it off, and we became good friends. And we graduated with associates and then graduated with our bachelor's in 2012. And we remained friends since then. And here we are today.
Right. I think 2009 was 12 years ago.
Jeez, man, that's a long time ago. But
my God.
It doesn't seem like it's been that long. Like, you still look like the same Harrison I met 12 years ago.
Oh, man. I remember those long-ass nights playing Xbox 360, Left 4 Dead, jacuzzi nights, a lot of movies, lots and lots of movie time. I remember that.
Yeah, man.
And making movies, too.
Yeah, college was really a great experience. It was not the normal college experience you would imagine going into college from high school. Right? Like, there's no sororities, there's no girls, there's no really like no partying. But our college experience was very unique. And I really,
it was a vocational
really
school.
Yeah, but it was awesome. It was a bunch of nerds, you know?
Yeah, a bunch of nerds. No, yeah, like as you said, no chicks. I think that's more applicable to you, but there were a lot of cute guys there. That's just for me.
Right.
But anyways, but yeah, that's how we know each other. Welcome to the show, Jesus. Well, glad to have you on the show. So today we're going to be discussing the long-awaited Mortal Kombat. So this is what it's about. MMA fighter Cole Young seeks out Earth's greatest champions in order to stand against the enemies of Outworld in a high-stakes battle for the universe. This has been directed by Simon McQuoid and stars Jessica McNamee as Sonya Blade, Josh Lawson as Kano, Joe Taslim as Sub-Zero, Makad Brooks as Jax, Tadanobu Asano as Raiden, Hiroyuki Sanada as Scorpion, Chin Han as Shang Tsung, Ludi Lin as Liu Kang, James Huang as Kung Lao, and finally Louis Tan as Cole Young. So we're going to get into everything we loved about it, everything we hated about it, but let's first start this episode off with a pretty simple question. Jesus, did you play Mortal Kombat growing up?
I have to be honest with you, I really didn't play Mortal Kombat. No, I was not really into playing video games growing up, so it wasn't just Mortal Kombat. Yes, I played it. I've had my, fair share of few fights in the Mortal Kombat, but I wasn't a big gamer back in the day, so I played it every once in a while. Yeah, just the occasional let's go to a friend's house and they have the game, so I played.
I was going to say, if you never played it, was were you a Street Fighter guy or a Tekken guy or even a Killer Instinct guy?
I think I was a Street Fighter guy. Yeah, I've always been a Street Fighter guy. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, no, for me, I definitely grew up playing Mortal Kombat. And again, like you, I don't even consider myself a gamer right now. I think even, I'm a very casual gamer. So this would always be, when the parents are shopping at Kmart, put a quarter into the arcade game. I'd play it over at the GameStop here at Arizona Mills, all the arcades, which no longer exist anymore. So yeah, no, I was a Mortal Kombat kid. So here's another question: were you a fan of the first two Mortal Kombat movies?
Oh man, gotta be honest again. I didn't watch them till just recently. I watched some some pieces of the movies, but I didn't watch the whole movie. So no, not
Wow.
really.
Oh, dang. Okay. Well, I mean, those, I think for me, those were very, very influential movies as, a kid at the time, because even though the games in itself were incredibly violent, the movie was almost steered more towards teenagers and children. So, and I think it's one of those movies which is, it's not a very good movie, and I think it survives solely on the fuel that is nostalgia. Because I went back and watched it, and there are some great fight scenes, but ultimately it's a really, really bad movie. Especially the second one, Mortal Kombat Annihilation,
I've
which
heard that's
for
pretty bad.
yeah, but it falls in the category of so bad it's good. So just for fun, give go find them somehow, whatever ways you may have, whether it's legally or illegally. I don't think they'll mind if you pirate this, but give the first two a watch and just have fun with the second one, because it's complete shit, but it's pretty good shit, if you know what I
All
mean.
right, I'll give him a try for sure.
Yeah. But I was sitting in the theater as a kid. It's one of those movies that I was definitely, it was on repeat watch. We bought them on VHS tape. So I grew up with the games and the movies. So, the moment that it was announced that there was going to be a Mortal Kombat reboot, I was so excited because it was going to be planned as a hard R rating, and as you may know, the things that the video games are known for are the intense fatalities. So
Fatality.
see, so even with cultural, even with just cultural know-how, you kind of get little references here and there, right?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, Mortal Kombat's a huge, game, and obviously those movies too that I never watched, but I will see now. But yeah, the game is, it's pretty gnarly, man. They have some pretty crazy fatalities and heads coming off and things like that. And I think that's what made the game just so popular with it,
Memorable.
with teenagers and kids and all that. It's just not reality,
Yeah, which I think, if I might be mistaken, but much like Steven Spielberg's darker films like Temple of Doom and what was that other one he did? Poltergeist. Those movies were rated PG, but they were really, really intense. So his films actually inspired the creation of PG-13, and I think Mortal Kombat did the same for video games, where you got the rated E for everyone, T for teen, or M for mature. So Mortal Kombat really kind of paved the way for game censorship, but also game rating. So that's how intense it was, because no one thought video games aren't going to be violent. And in comes Mortal Kombat, and then suddenly we got games like Doom, and then Resident Evil, which obviously have been rated M for mature. So, but all right. So, what were your first impressions of the 2021 Mortal Kombat? And I think you have a little story when you first watched it, and then when you watched it again.
Yes, so I've watched it twice already. I watched it last night with a group of friends, just here in my house. We're having a little, get together, and then we put the movie on. It's on HBO Max, so we put it on. But we were having some adult beverages, so I wasn't really paying too much attention to the movie. Uh, but man, dude, I mean, I was watching it there, and the rated R, I think it could have been a little bit more rated R, but the fatalities and those scenes were pretty gory and gnarly, and I really enjoyed like all those scenes. The fighting sequences were pretty fucking awesome. I really enjoyed them. Uh and yeah, that's the way I felt about it last night. I couldn't really rate it until I saw it again today.
Hmm.
But my
You got
first
a little
instinct,
inebriated.
yes, the first instinct of watching the movie was just like it catches your eye. Like if you're not paying attention to it, like it makes you look over because it's just so gory and gnarly. You're like, whoa, that was intense. That was crazy the way that person died. So it's very eye catching for sure, and it gets your attention and it grabs you like that. So that was pretty cool. That was my first watch last night. Yeah,
Yeah. So I got a little story too.
yeah.
So I was actually really pissed off because It came out a week earlier everywhere else except the United States. So going on YouTube was like a minefield of of spoilers. And I was so pissed because some asshole on Facebook, and I bet they're going to be listening to this, and I forgot their name, but whoever you are, you're a fucking asshole. They posted a GIF of the Kung Lao fatality, of Natara being split in half by his hat. And I was so fucking pissed because, and I was also kind of happy because it looked really freaking awesome for it being just pirated footage. But the best fatality in the movie was spoiled for me, and I'll never forgive that person. But throughout the whole week, I kept seeing like really specifically titled YouTube videos of spoilers, and I'm like, man, fuck that, fuck that. So it was a whole week of dodging as much shit as that as possible, and I was really more pissed off because they didn't have the typical Thursday night screenings, the 7 p.m. screenings on Thursday, so I had to wait until Friday morning, 10:30, which is so weird because you know me, I'm always at the pre-screenings with any new movie out there, So this was like the worst week of my life, just waiting and waiting and waiting. And unfortunately, the first impression I got, on at least on my first screening, was that I did not like it, which was terrible. And I'm not sure if I can contribute that to certain things being spoiled or maybe setting such a high expectation for the movie. But yeah, my first impression of it was that I did not like it. So now we're going to get into the specifics here. Jesus, what did you like of the movie?
Well, I think I already mentioned this, but I think I like the fatalities. I like the fighting scenes. There were pretty good fighting scenes, man. I like the editing. I thought the visual effects were really well done too. Some parts were like okay, but overall I think they were great. I liked Goro. I think maybe he should have been in the movie a little bit more. I just feel like he wasn't in it as much. And I mean, I don't know a lot of the Mortal Kombat story, and that's another thing that I wish would have had more in this movie. More of a story and just kind of background of all these characters. Because Mortal Kombat's it's old, right? Like it's been around for so long. So there's a lot of people, new audience that are watching this that don't really have a background story to all these characters, and I wish it would have had more of a background story. But my favorite part was like obviously the action scenes. Yes, they were awesome.
Yeah, and I think that kind of is the same answer for me. The fatalities were probably the one thing that I think everyone was looking forward to in this movie, and especially with when you hear the interviews stating that they attempted to at least approach the fatalities in a practical manner, which I think to a certain extent they did. Like the best fatality, like I mentioned before, was the Kung Lao fatality, and you could see a lot of practical elements in that, meeting some really weird digital blood, which I will never know why they put digital blood into the movie, because it's splash blood on the fucking actor. Don't enhance it with computers. Use a computer to remove wires or whatever, but not digital blood. And I can't believe they did that, because there was definitely digital blood on there. I have definitely seen pirated versions of that kill on YouTube now so many times for me to examine it. So but yeah, and the fight scenes pretty top notch. There was definitely pretty high-end fight choreography happening here, which makes sense considering that working on this film is probably every stuntman's dream, because they could just come up with the most intense choreography, and since it's rated R, they're basically just said, hey, don't hold back, And the next question I think will kind of fit into this too is what did you not like, and that kind of ties in with what you said with the editing. And for me, I just think the editing of this movie was so weird. There was like a moment that was a split-second cut that really didn't need to be there. There's moments where characters are kind of like talking, but we should probably be focusing on that actor talking as opposed to seeing a reaction shot. And it was just really weird for me to be kind of focusing on that, because I really shouldn't be focusing on shit like that with a movie like this. Because a movie like this, you just need fight scenes and gore. and it's in there. But when the other stuff doesn't add up, at least for me, it kind of faltered for me in that sense. At least maybe on the first viewing, which makes me wonder if this was a studio thing, because especially now when the shock of it wore off on the first viewing and I watched it again, I was actually kind of looking for like where the hell it kind of went wrong, and it seems that once after the whole Scorpion opening scene, the movie just went at a breakneck speed, where it was just things are happening left and right. Characters are introduced that need a better introduction. Like for instance, I think the second best character is Kung Lao, and he just pops up out of the ground, and he's Liu Kang's cousin, and then, oh yeah, spoilers, he gets killed. You know, I was like, we knew this guy for 5 minutes, and he killed someone very brutally, and then he gets murdered in a pretty brutal way too.
Yeah, I think the editing also could have been done a little bit better too. I would have liked to see, because like you mentioned, the choreography was top notch, and I think I would have liked to seen more of just more longer shots of them actually fighting, rather than like cut when they're fighting, because there's a lot of cuts as they're like, punching and hitting and doing all these different things, these movements, and I would have rather just kind of have like less cuts and see them actually just play out the choreography longer with like longer shots. So yeah, I totally agree with you there too.
Yeah, and I don't think you're gonna get this because you mentioned that you hadn't seen Mortal Kombat Annihilation, but to me, the pacing of this movie was very similar to Mortal Kombat Annihilation, and that is definitely a detriment to the film. Only because it reminded me of Mortal Kombat Annihilation with the whole finale fight scenes, where each character is all like, "Oh, I'll take that guy, I'll take this chick." It was literally the same thing in Mortal Kombat that it is in this Mortal Kombat. And,
Interesting.
They split off and they do their fights and they're losing and then they win. And I'm like, oh no,
Yeah.
they literally Mortal copied that.
Yeah, so let me ask you this. Do you think, this is kind of how I feel, but do you think it was a budget issue for this movie, that they didn't have like enough budget to, for example, like have more Goro in it, or do a few more other things? Like, what'd you think of the Outworld? Like, I felt like it was a budget issue with this movie.
I don't think it was a budget issue. I think, well, if anything, I think the most shoddy visual effects do belong to Goro.
Yeah.
Everything else looked fine. For a lot of the elemental visual effects were top notch. I have never seen.
Yeah.
I have never seen digital ice integrate that well into live photography in a very long time, and especially when it comes to like the practical elements of fire. Like what really caught my eye was how much they tried to do practically with the fire. The one shot that comes to mind is when Liu Kang kind of lights that fire in that cave, and he has like there's light coming from his palm.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, okay, there's a practical light in there, and they do as much as they can practically so that when they alter it digitally, it comes off as realistic. Like, I think this is the best looking fire effects I've seen. Again, another bad movie, but that I've seen probably since The Last Airbender. Because say what you will, The Last Airbender, the visual effects of that movie were amazing, especially with the fire and the water effects. But I don't think it was a practical issue. And one thing that I like about this movie is that it's produced by James Wan. Do you know James Wan?
No.
He came from a horror background with the movie Saw. He did the Insidious film, the Conjuring films, and most recently a Fast and the Furious movie, and Aquaman.
Oh, okay.
So he's a huge Hollywood player that comes from a very small budgeted background. So he produced this movie, and one of the things is he's always trying to drive productions in his native country of Australia. So all of these sweeping shots of vistas and desert was live action photography in the country of Australia. So when you ask me how Outworld looks practical. Outworld is a physical thing. They did not do blue screen work, which would have been horrible. So they shot on location as best they can, which leads me to a thing that I don't think it is a budget issue. They had the budget because at least the film looks good.
Yeah.
The sets look great. The costumes are actually pretty awesome, but there's just something lacking, and I think it just comes from either the script or the editing, because it reminded me a lot about this Suicide Squad too, where it feels that they cut down important character stuff.
It definitely does feel that that they cut down a lot of, important information about the characters to cut down to the action, which I love action. I love all these fight scenes and stuff, but I would also like to, know more about these characters and their background.
And I think that, and that makes sense, but unfortunately, I think it just adds to the video game adaptation curse, because, to this day, I don't think we've had a very good video game adaptation movie, and this just adds to the list. And it depends on how you look at it. You can look at it as a nostalgic young man who played these games as a kid, where all it ever needed to be was an action movie with gore. In that case, it succeeds.
Yeah.
But, and I just wanted perhaps a little bit more in my Mortal Kombat movie, but which again, and this actually is a good segue into what I thought is the best character, but probably for the wrong reasons. What did you think of Kano?
I think he was the best character. Yes, I agree with that. I really like him. He had some funny parts. He's my favorite character so far. Yeah, from the whole movie. I just didn't get like the whole eye thing, because doesn't he have like like an android eye in the game, and here he doesn't have an android eye, and he just has like a laser.
Yeah, so that's a whole other thing. Now, so okay, that's great to bring up though, because, and again, this I could be totally wrong on my end, but I believe, at least in the early games, I had never played the in between games like Mortal Kombat 4, Deadly Alliance, Armageddon. I've never played those games before. But in the early games, it was called an animality, where the character would transform into an animal and fucking, kill people. But in this one, they call it Arcanum, which isn't, I guess it is like this movie's version of an animality. And in this case, it's not turning into an animal. It is just powers, which I can't confirm if that's from the video game. I really can't. So if anybody's out there, tell us we're wrong, and unsubscribe, give us a thumbs down. But I believe Arcanum, the concept of the Arcanum powers, was made for the movie. So it's interesting that you say that he does have a metal eye. This is going to be a question for later, but I do believe that Kano will come back, and that's when he'll have
the Terminator I guess that makes sense. Yeah, like because he got stabbed by a gnome in the eye, and then he'll come. Spoiler alert.
Yeah,
and then he'll come back, I guess, because there's 2 other movies coming out, right?
3 they say.
3 other movies. Okay.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is just kind of laying the groundwork for for the rest of the movies. But I do feel that this movie was made and catered towards like already Mortal Kombat fans. People that already know the characters, people that are somewhat invested in these characters and know who they are. Because me watching this movie last night and today, I'm like, oh man, I don't know who that is. Really, like I want to know more about that guy, because I think they're a badass character. But I think it's catered more towards people that are already fans.
Oh, absolutely. This movie was 100% fan service. All those little tidbits of like, finish him, and, flawless victory. And, well, it was Liu Kang that said fatality for Kung Lao. I'm like, oh, gosh. Maybe random to people who don't know what those terms are, especially when it's someone who has never played the games. But again, hopefully through cultural osmosis, you kind of got the references. Oh, and test your might. I think that may have been a one that flew under the radar for many people, but a lot of people in my theater were very, he said the thing. But you know who I thought was the second best character? and it just saddens me that he's not in the movie and he dies. But a lot of characters who die in the video games never really die, and I'm hoping in some way, shape, or form he comes back. But I'm referring to Cabal.
Oh, dude, he had a great death. That's probably one of my, well, besides the girl that gets split in half. But I think he had one of the best deaths. Just the dragon comes out and just like, gobbles him up in fire, man.
I just wish that he was in it more, and I really hope that he's not dead because I loved his chemistry with Kano. He's just as foul-mouthed as him, at least. But especially, I just love his reaction when he knows he's about to die. He looks up and he's like, "Ah, shit." And I'm like, "Oh, Cabal, you foul-mouthed person." And I know that you don't know the backstory of the character so much, but the reason why he's wearing that getup is because he was set on fire. So he gets killed again the same way, but well, you'll never know, I guess. But,
yeah, I really like Cabal too. Like, he was a good character. But yeah, you're right. He wasn't in the movie as long, you know?
What about Raiden? What do you think about Raiden?
I liked Raiden. He was cool. I mean, also he just seemed like the god of, like, you know, the main guy, the godfather of all these other fighters. And I thought it was great. His visual effects were amazing too. You know, the lightning and all that stuff were awesome. So, do you think he should have been in the movie more too, and maybe had a little bit more fight scenes?
No, I think he was. For what he was in the movie, like character time, you know, his on-screen time was fine with me. But you see, I think this may just come from me having grown up with a different Raiden, because the Raiden from the other two movies were way, way different from this Raiden in the movie. And he's even way different from the Raiden in the video games, because in the first movie, the 1995 version, he is very kind of like Gandalf. He's very kind of quirky, and he
doesn't what's his name, Kano, even call him Gandalf or something in the movie?
Yeah, right. And I don't know, he was just way more friendlier, especially in the two original movies, you know, because the first one was played by Christopher Lambert, which I think if you saw his face, you think, oh, that guy. And the second one was played by James Remar. Again, he's one of those faces that is it's well known, but you can't recall his name. And even in the video games, you know, he was very, you know, strict and godlike, but he was still very inspirational. He was inspiring. He would again give sage advice like Gandalf. In this one, he was like a stern prick, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like they're playing it off as like he's intentionally pushing them over the edge, but he's doing it in such an asshole way that it's like, wow, this god's a dick. Because what's that? It's like, yeah, there's nothing for you here. Go home. Be with your family.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, shit. Come on, Raiden. Give us some sage advice.
But then, you know, it comes around, and then he's like, thank you for giving my fighter to find his Archon or whatever, you know. So it's like he did it on purpose so he could just find himself.
And at the end, he becomes a little bit of a familiar Raiden, a little bit of a, you know, funny guy when, you know, Shang Tsung's about to give this epic speech and he zaps him away and he says he talks too much.
Yeah.
So
I don't know much about Raiden's background either. So you know, there's that too.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people were excited finally that the character of Raiden was being played by an Asian actor too, because, you know, I think in the first one, the first two movies are played by white guys, and he's like the Asian, the Japanese thunder god. So it's like, hey, how does that match up here? So, and I don't know the actor too well, but I know that he's well known for something. So the fact that they got him to play Raiden was fine. Let's see. The next question is, it's going to be a pretty controversial one, and again, I think this may be more one-sided, but what did you think of the inclusion of Cole Young, who is not a character from the video game?
Right, yeah, I heard that too. Honestly, what's his Scorpion? What's his name?
Hanzo Hasashi.
Okay, I think I wish he would have been in the movie more. And I kind of feel like maybe he should have been like the main actor and the main guy to follow. But yeah, they follow Cole throughout the whole movie, who's like you said, not in the game. And what is he, just an integration of this movie, just so they can follow a character who's the underdog throughout the whole movie, and then kind of finds himself, and then gets redemption, and like I don't know, I don't really know what to think of that because like I said, I'm not a really big fan of Mortal Kombat and I haven't really followed it as much, but I kind of feel they could have gone a different route or maybe followed another character that really just kind of integrated into the Mortal Kombat world a little bit better.
Yeah, because even when he transformed into whatever the
Yeah, what are
fuck
his
he was,
powers?
growing, I don't know, it looked like fucking mystical nano Iron Man tech. I
I
don't
just felt
know.
like he just kept getting his ass kicked all movie long.
Which, did you happen to notice? I only noticed this the second time, but that, I don't know, whatever armor he's wearing, springs from his daughter's friendship
I saw
bracelet.
that, yeah. So when he's there, like it starts like forming into his arm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that was cringy. That was cringy. With the power of love, you know. So I absolutely hated it. So it's funny that you say that Scorpion should have been the main character. Because I think a couple years ago, I think it was last year actually, they released an animated Mortal Kombat movie, which was actually surprisingly really, really fucking good. And shockingly way more violent than this movie. But it was called Mortal Kombat something Scorpion's Revenge. And Scorpion was the main character in that movie, where his family gets slaughtered by the Lin Kuei, which is Sub-Zero's clan, and gets sent to hell, and then he fights his way through hell to be resurrected to avenge his family. And the only way he can do that is by fighting in Mortal Kombat to fight Sub-Zero. That would have been such a way better Mortal Kombat movie. Instead of having to introduce, a new character like they did. And when the synopsis of this was released like months ago, I got a little concerned. And unfortunately, my fears became a reality. This Cole Young character is the Mortal Kombat version of Alice from Resident Evil. Because Alice was not a character in the video games, and here she is being the main character, interacting with fan favorite characters, and it's just all wrong. And it's like a mirror image now, because now we have Cole Young, who is, I was kind of hoping at least somehow he would fit in, like he would be a secret character that from the Mortal Kombat lineup, which they could have totally easily done that somehow. But they didn't. Instead, they opted for a wholly new original character. I don't know why they did that, but
well, he's from the lineage, right? He's part of the Scorpion's like family lineage. That's what they're saying, and that's how he's involved in this whole thing, and that's why he has that what's it called, the scar, from birth, right? Mm-hmm. And so I get that part, and that's how he's involved. But you're right, though. It's just like, they're just kind of looking for someone to follow throughout the whole movie and kind of get the audience emotionally involved about this character and his family, which his family don't really even have a lot to do with like the Mortal Kombat thing.
Yeah, like, dude, I literally thought that little girl was like his sister.
Yes, I definitely thought that too. It's funny you say that, because last night when I was watching this, because I was like in and out of the movie right now. I was like talking to people. And then I was like, okay, I was looking at him. Like, all right, cool. So I'm like, oh, who's this girl? The little girl. I'm like, is that like his sister? Like, I don't know. I didn't know who she was. Definitely does not look like that's his daughter. Like, he does not look like a dad. First of all, he looks like he's a single 25-year-old guy with no family.
Did he have this baby when he was like fucking 7 or something? Jesus Christ. I don't know. Cole Young was such a random character. He didn't belong, and a lot of people are okay with this, and I feel that I should be, but and when you have something as iconic as Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat characters, introducing someone new to its movie adaptation is a ballsy move, and it did not pay off. You know, all that time developing his character for someone we don't know and actually don't care about, I didn't care about him, could have been spent developing that bond between Kung Lao and Liu Kang, you know? So, you know, his backstory of how he became, you know, a warrior, a chosen warrior, was way more interesting than what we got with Ko Young. You know?
Yeah, Cole Young didn't really like become like this warrior. Like, I mean, he did like all of a sudden, just like out of nowhere, but he didn't really like, I guess, sacrifice anything story for it. Yeah, there was no like, oh man, wow, this guy's like a true warrior. Like, he's getting his ass whooped all movie long, like from the get-go when he's fighting in that cage. Like, he gets choked out, and it's, you know, it's just like
his character arc was not doing an uppercut to doing an uppercut.
Yeah,
that was literally his character arc. And okay, was his suit very similar to Black Panther's, where it seems that it absorbed hits and then it was reverted to a punch? I don't know. It just
I don't know either. Yeah. That's a good question, because I mean, I was kind of confused. I was honestly kind of confused with his whole character and throughout the whole movie. Not confused as in like oh, I don't know like who this guy is. Like, I knew like where he comes from, and like they said that. But as far as like what is the point of following this guy throughout the whole movie? You know, like, it's like why not follow someone else and kind of tell the story through like an actual like Mortal Kombat character that has more, you know, weight to it.
And like you said, it should have been Scorpion, because it was literally the opening scene was Scorpion. The finale was Scorpion getting his revenge.
Yeah.
So it should have been a Scorpion movie.
Yeah, but Scorpion coming back from hell, getting his revenge.
Where's that movie? I want to see that. Oh, wait. We did. It's called Spawn. But all right. So are you hoping for a sequel?
Hey, man, I'll watch it. If there's a sequel and they do it, I'll definitely watch it, just to, you know, because I'm already somewhat invested in the Mortal Kombat world, and I would like to learn more about it. And yeah, I'll definitely watch it. Yeah, I'd be interested.
Mm-hmm. I'm hoping to. I feel that this is well, it's hard to say. It's hard to base these movies if they're successful or not, because streaming shows don't really give out numbers. Really. In fact, the only way they could tell if a movie is successful is by the amount of subscribers they get. They don't release how many people watch their shows at all, so we'll never really know if it was a success, because a lot of people still aren't going to the movie theaters, and especially for the 2 screenings I went to, they were sold out, quote unquote, by COVID standards. You know, the seats were still staggered. There was still like half the theater that was empty, but I don't know. I'm not quite sure how to base the success of modern day movies anymore, because you can't do the typical box office returns because they're not accurate.
Well, let's base it off on reviews. Like, now that the movie's been out for, you know, a few days, and actually it's been out for longer than that, right? Because they released it before that. But with the reviews that you've seen and the reaction of other people, like, what do you think? What's the reaction?
I really don't know. I mean, I guess you could, but it's always going to be about the money, because there are series out there that have gotten terrible reviews and have gotten like 5 sequels. I'm speaking, of course, about Transformers. So
I thought you were going to say Fast and Furious.
Oh, you see, the thing about those is, while they're not bad movies, they're really not. And I'll always say this about the Fast and the Furious movies: I will stop going when they start being bad, and they aren't bad movies, you know. So I am all for that ridiculousness. Transformers, on the other hand, I could not be more bored with the most intense visuals happening on screen with The Last Night. So I don't know, but I really hope it's successful. At least I really hope that Warner Brothers thinks it's successful, because funnily enough, you know, this movie featured no tournament at all. In fact, this whole movie was about stopping the tournament.
Right, yeah, they were fighting to not go to the tournament.
They were actually doing Mortal Kombat. They weren't participating in Mortal Kombat. But all right. So this is going to be such a weird question, but it's just because I wanted to bring it up because a friend brought it up to me. But do you think Bihan, who is Sub-Zero, will now become Noob Saibot?
New Zybot?
Noob Saibot.
Okay, sorry.
You don't know that.
I don't know who that
character,
is.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Noob Saibot is a character in Mortal Kombat who, based off the history in the games, from what I believe is what my friend told me, is that he is a resurrected version of Sub-Zero. So there's a possibility, because there's a moment at the end of the movie where he's getting his ass kicked and he takes his outer armor off and he's wearing this black thing that looked very similar to what his character in the video game wears, Noob Saibot. So a lot of people are thinking, because there were two bodies that disappeared, Sub-Zero's and Goro's body, and a lot of people are thinking that Goro's gonna come back as this other character whose name I can't remember, but oh, that's gonna bug the fuck out of me. He's like a tiger version of Goro. Ugh, damn it, I forgot his name. But a lot of people are speculating that if there is a sequel, that Sub-Zero will now be Noob Saibot, and that his brother, like in the video game, will take on the mantle of Sub-Zero. So it's like, that's something you'd have to know game lore-wise to be like, oh shit, they're setting that up and this up.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I'm not able to answer that question because I didn't even know who the character was. But if we'll find out once they start coming out with more movies, and hopefully it does well, right? So we can keep getting these movies. I'm hoping.
And I don't know. And again, you're not really into the video games, but there were definitely a lot of references to other characters in the video game. For instance, there was a very obvious picture of a Native American who is Nightwolf in the video games. There was a picture of an Incan god, or not Incan, but who were those? Mayan god, and that is the character Kotal Khan. And a very obvious reference were the bladed fan knives, which belong to oh my god, Katana. Oh my god, I almost forgot her name. So I'm hoping, and again, I think Kano was such a lovable character that he has to come back, and I think he is, with his metal eye. But again, I think he was the best thing about him, and Cabal were the best things about this movie. So but all right, so that brings us to our final thoughts. Jesus, what did you think of Mortal Kombat?
I really enjoyed Sub-Zero and Scorpion's final fight. That fight was incredible. Just the way they were fighting, they were just throwing each other, and it was really cool. It kind of brings it back around to their fight in the beginning of the movie when they're battling. So I really enjoyed that part of the movie where they're just fighting, and for me the action and the fighting part was cool, even though the editing wasn't I guess the best, but I think the choreography just really made up for this, and the fatalities and all that stuff really made it for me for sure. Okay,
so yeah, I share a lot of well, now I do. I share a lot of your sentiments. I think a lot of people will call me a negative Nancy, because I guess I want a little bit more out of my movies, but this movie didn't need to be, the best movie ever. It needed to have fight scenes, violence, gore, and your favorite Mortal Kombat characters. And I will say that it, much like oh god, what was that one movie? I guess for certain Resident Evil characters, but they got the look of all the characters down. They literally walk out of the video game into reality, and some of them even look better than their video game counterparts. Visual effects aside, with Goro, he still very much looks like Goro from the video games. So I guess that's all it really needed to be. I guess I needed to be in the mindset of my 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old self watching and playing these video games, because but that was my first viewing, to be honest. The second viewing, I liked it very, very much. So,
how many times have you seen it now?
I've seen it twice, and I was sober both times.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And I guess, the theater does matter, I guess, because I caught the second screening at a Dolby Cinema, which I don't know if, do you guys have that there over in LA?
I'm sure we have Adobe. I mean, I don't know if they're open now. I think they're open.
Yeah. Because the Dolby Cinemas are, I think they're just exclusive to AMC theaters, but these ones are really nice. They have the Dolby Atmos, huge fucking side speakers. They basically screen Dolby Vision in a cinema, and the chairs vibrate. So every punch was felt, especially every footstep and punch from Goro. The chairs were like, oh. So, yeah, I think it was a bit more immersive there, and that's probably why I liked it. But yeah, I'm in a love-hate relationship with it. I don't think it comes in even with like the three movies we have: Mortal Kombat, the original, Annihilation, and now this. I don't think it comes first place. I still think that the first Mortal Kombat is better, so therefore it's number one. This Mortal Kombat is now number two, and everyone will always hate Annihilation, even though I low-key love it for all the right and wrong reasons. Mortal Kombat Annihilation is still probably number three on my list in that order. So now we're going on to our ratings, and what I like to do, Jesus, is that I like to kind of choose like a theme from the movie to use as the ratings, and we do out of 5 stars here. So we're going to use fatalities as our rating scale. So out of 5 fatalities, Jesus, what do you give Mortal Kombat?
Out of 5 fatalities, I'm going to have to give it... Man, I'm going to have to give it a 2.5 rating.
Okay. Well, it's funny because when I walked out of the theater for the first time, I said, wow, that sucked. I'm going to give it 2. But then I watched it again and I said, you know what? I enjoyed it more this time. So now that bumped my rating up to 3 fatalities out of 5.
That's a fair rating. Yeah, out of 5 fatalities. I would have given it a 3 too. I think so, but I'm going to go with 2.5, and I'm hoping that this one does well enough that they can kind of come back and polish it up a little bit more, give us more backstory to these characters. And yeah, I'm excited to see what they come out with.
Yeah. Oh, dude, did you know one other thing about especially the fatalities is when I first watched it, I didn't think they were that intense. I think the most intense one was the Kung Lao, but like Melina getting her stomach shot out with Sonya's Arcana powers. I mean, okay, that wasn't. It's more like an aftermath of it.
Yeah, I thought that the head squish was pretty.
Yeah,
pretty
the
gnarly.
head squish was pretty awesome. Goro's like disembowelment.
Oh yeah, that was cool too.
Which I was really pissed off that Goro got killed that fast, but whatever.
Right, and that's what I mean by like he got killed by this guy that's been getting his ass whooped all movie long.
Yeah.
All of a sudden he's just like killing Goro like that.
Yeah, he fucking stabbed him. So
he chopped up one of his arms.
I know. What was oh yeah, Kung Lao getting his soul sucked. That was pretty intense. Cabal getting devoured by the fire dragon. But I was just. They were great, but I was like, and I'm not even sure if that even speaks on what kind of movies I watch, but like I've seen way more intense deaths on film, so it didn't really affect me that much. And I feel so bad because my mom wanted to watch it so badly, but she doesn't really like gore, and I showed her that clip, the gif of the Kung Lao fatality, and she said, I don't want to watch it no more, it's too gory. And she says that having seen every season of Game of Thrones. So, whatever. So, thanks for listening to us discuss Mortal Kombat. Join me next week as we discuss the quirky indie flick Limbo with yet another film school buddy of mine, Stephen Kesson. So, Jesus, why don't you lead us out?
Well, until then, you can find us on all social medias. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Pandora, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and Podbean. My name is Jesus.
And my name is Harrison. And we are the Final Gaze.